Hello and welcome to our next session of our Always On virtual series. This virtual series is designed to provide you with thought leadership throughout the year and provide a deep dive into the trends that are transforming the way we do business. During each session, we will be joined by Carousel's own Chief Technology Officer, Jason Vieira, who will identify the right mix of topics and speakers to advance your IT strategy and enlighten you on hot button issues and industry trends. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. We have provided our speakers' bios in the top left corner of your screen. In that window, we have provided shortcuts to our speakers' social media pages. Please take a moment and connect with Jason and Stephen on their respective social media channels. At the end of today's session, Jason and Stephen will address your questions. Please use the Q&A function below the presentation to submit any questions you would like to ask our presenters. If you or a colleague are interested in watching some of the previous Always On sessions, you can find the recorded versions of these sessions on our website at carouselindustries.com by clicking on the Resource tab and then click On Demand Learning. Today, we are joined by Carousel's VP of Contact Center Solutions, Stephen Drew, who will discuss why Communications Platform as a Service should be part of your 2020 contact center strategy. And with that, I will turn it over to Stephen.
Great. Thanks very much. And it's a pleasure to present today. If you check out my LinkedIn profile, you'll note that I'm relatively new to Carousel. I'm super excited to be here and today talk specifically about Communications Platform as a Service, or CPaaS. We're going to cover sort of three areas, give a brief introduction to what CPaaS is. Many of you may have heard of some of the big players in this space. And then talk about some of the reasons why and how it can be integrated into your existing contact center platforms, as well as some of the capabilities that come out of the box to provide omni-channel type contact center functionality. And then we're going to go into several demos of use cases that have been developed using CPaaS offerings to give you sort of firsthand look at some of the flexibility that the solutions can offer. And there should be plenty of time for Q&A afterwards. And there's also a couple poll questions that are scattered throughout. So, as I mentioned earlier, CPaaS stands for Communications Platform as a Service. And basically, this consists of web or cloud available APIs that are built around many different call and messaging use cases. And it's used sort of in multiple ways. Primarily, it's connected to from external applications like IVRs or workforce management applications or agent desktops or what have you, as well as connectivity in from external business applications that might need communications type services built in. And the big players in the space kind of started out really with messaging and SMS messaging, the most widely known one being Twilio, to basically help customers, enterprises do SMS outbound notification. So some of the really big use cases that come up a lot for CPaaS, as I mentioned a second ago, outbound SMS messaging is really big play for this and relatively straightforward to implement, as we'll see in a little bit, as well as inbound SMS services, and then messaging and connectivity to other messaging type channels and interactions other than voice, such as Facebook Messenger integration or WhatsApp or things along those lines. CPaaS is also really a great play for cloud-enabled IVR platforms. So this is a scenario where you may have a legacy IVR application on premise, or you have limited functionality, and as opposed to making a big investment to bring in additional infrastructure and applications onto your premise systems, you can build, deploy, and manage an inbound IVR, natural language, conversational IVR on a CPaaS platform. There's cases for general conference calling and video conferencing and voice enablement. So placing and managing calling inbound and outbound, as well as features like secure payment processing and two-factor authentication. So you basically have this massive library of APIs that you program against or leverage from many different languages, such as Java or Node, to enable specific features like some of the stuff that I just mentioned here. The big players in the CPaaS space are the number one is Twilio. They're massive. If you follow them along, they're doing very, very well. And then there's Nexmo, Plivo, and Zang. And Zang is actually the CPaaS offer from Avaya. Cisco used to have one called Tropo, but they sunsetted that platform. But it's these are really set up to be platform agnostic, as you'll see in a few moments as we walk through some demos. So before we get into too much detail, we have our first poll question here, which is really just to gauge everyone's awareness of or understanding of CPaaS today. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to submit that, I'm going to submit one too. And then we'll go to the next slide and wait a moment here and see if folks can enter in their response.
Hold on, Stephen. We got to go back to the last slide. Make sure everyone's got the opportunity to vote. You
got to wait. Okay, so when I move, then you can't vote anymore. Got it.
All good.
Right, I'll stop. Yeah, I didn't quite understand that part earlier. Yeah. I'm just waiting for you, David, to know when to move.
Sure, we can get going.
Okay, so go right. Okay, excellent. That's really interesting. The number of folks that have production use cases in place already is, I think, a little bit higher than I would have expected. I personally used it for the SMS outbound notifications in my last company, pretty successfully. I would love to just stop and hear everyone talk about, what they're doing. And, as you see above, right, lots of folks new. So hopefully, we'll give you enough introduction to the topic that you can go and dig around and learn more about it afterwards. So thanks for doing that. So, just a few points about why. I mean, the title of this talk was Why Communications Platform as a Service Should Be Part of Your Strategy. I think that for me, the biggest benefit I see in leveraging CPaaS services is the ability to really adopt an agile mindset or agile practices around delivery of contact center solutions. If you think about many of the various platforms that some of us may have deployed in the past, these are traditional waterfall, big investment, massive investment upfront, multi-month, sort of implementations where, in many cases you have a solution document or some design document that's built, and then everything's built to that spec with limited opportunity for internal customers to offer their feedback. With CPaaS platforms like Twilio and Zang, we really well, first of all, we don't have to worry about the big upfront infrastructure investments, but just, even more importantly, we can build in small chunks, and kind of build on, things over in an iterative manner that really allows us to get, great feedback from stakeholders real time. And it's very much aligned to a agile minimum viable product approach to solution delivery, along with the tooling and stuff that one would hope to have when, moving to a DevOps type of environment, which, in the contact center world, that's been lacking for a long time, right? Are the tools that many of the platforms offer aren't really DevOps friendly, whereas with the CPaaS tools, we're talking about modern programming languages and frameworks that allow us to leverage common frameworks for testing and automated builds and deployment. So that's a huge, huge benefit. I think the other one that I like a lot is that we can build something in a CPaaS platform and integrate it with virtually any premise solution that you may have in place. So we'll do a demo today of an inbound call in an IVR that's built in a CPaaS offering, delivering the call with variables captured in the IVR into a premise Cisco system. This allows us to really, allows you all and us to extend the capabilities of the premise investment by bringing in, really the parts that we need from the CPaaS. And, to that end, this third point, right, we can pick and choose features. So as opposed to going out and buying a big, massive set of solutions, I can pick out those things that make the most sense for my business, pay on a consumption basis, and then, do so using, platforms that are kind of carrier grade. So these are 5.9 available systems that are relied on for, SMS and call processing, daily. And, for folks that don't have a strong development organization or development background, the major CPaaS platforms have a visual development, drag and drop sort of development environment as well. So you have the ability to both kind of move boxes and arrows and stuff around to get the flow of an IVR, for example, or a call flow built, or you have the flexibility of building that completely, from scratch using Node or some other web development framework. And I think that that all leads back to just a very much accelerated delivery of solutions. And I want to touch a little bit more on Agile. We didn't have a slide or a poll question about Agile, so given the nature of this talk, I can't ask everyone right now what their experience is. But just to kind of baseline, when we talk about Agile, really, this little pictograph is trying to help break out the Agile approach to delivering solutions versus waterfall. CPaaS really makes this a lot easier because we're building things in small increments, pushing to production very quickly, limiting or eliminating completely the need for additional infrastructure. And the process at the most basic level is to, from a roadmap of defined features that I want to achieve over, let's say, 2 years, I'm extracting from that first, what are the minimum things I need to go live with my new solution? Let's say it's an IVR and I want to be able to recognize the caller when they call in, proactively prompt them to, do something based on past interactions and then deliver to the right agent. We call that MVP. And then, from there, you're live. And then you can transition to a more iterative approach of delivery where you have a defined backlog of features that are then built in short sprints of 2 to 3 weeks. So this really, again, the tooling and the frameworks that we use to develop solutions on CPaaS are very much aligned to this type of methodology. which is kind of a breath of fresh air for contact center solutions. And so that's the little slide on Agile, and I kind of like my little picture over here, right? When we start out any project around contact center, the rocket says we want to go to the moon. We really just need to move down the street in our scooter, and most of the time we end up somewhere in the middle with our helicopter here. When we shift building complex applications into a CPaaS solution like Zang or Twilio, it allows us to really build a program around this type of methodology. Okay, so with that, we have another poll. Very interested in, for those of you on the call that have contact center solutions in place today, which platforms you're running. We listed out kind of the 4 big ones, and obviously there's many different cloud systems. Actually, some of the cloud contact center or CCaaS contact centers as service platforms are built on CPaaS solutions. So if you look under the covers, you might find a contact center such as Serenova, for example, that's built off of a Twilio framework. So wait a minute here to get everybody's response, and then move on. And I don't know, David, if you know like when that's done, or tell me when we should click right.
We can give everyone a couple more seconds to vote.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. There you go, Steve.
Thank you very much. So that's cool. Yeah, big Avaya contingent here. So thank you for that response, and would love to have a follow-up question, for those of the folks that are running on those Avaya platforms, if, they've looked at the Avaya CPaaS offer, which is Zang. Cool. So, that's sort of the introductory comments, right? So again, because CPaaS products are developer-oriented and they're really massive libraries of APIs, I felt like it would be most beneficial for this introduction to walk through some demonstrations of the technology. So I picked out 4 use cases that are hopefully relevant to everyone. And basically for the next, part of the talk, we're just going to run through each of those. I'll give you a brief overview of the scenario and the architecture. And once I tee it up, then we'll move to a video. I like to do live demos, but we tried the screen share, and my bandwidth is a little slow, so it's kind of laggy yesterday. So we did some pre-recorded videos instead, so that we're, can make sure we can, share that with you. The first one doesn't have any sound. The last 3 do, because you'll hear me calling into an IVR and responding to it. So if you have speakers, you'll want to turn them on. If you don't, it's not that important that you hear me say yes and no. But with that, I'm going to move into kind of a brief overview of the 4 scenarios we're going to walk through. So the first one's very basic, but also really powerful, right? Making a request out to an external service to send an outbound SMS. Now, there's lots of ways to do SMS. There's services that are bundled services that are just SMS specific. Here, we're using a CPaaS solution to make an API call to send an SMS notification to my phone and a link. The second one we'll look at is an IVR that is built in the cloud on a CPaaS, and it will take an inbound call, do a lookup in Salesforce, greet the caller by their first name based off of a ANI match, and then in the first scenario, we're going to transfer the call out from the CPaaS, which is a not a Cisco product. It's a separate solution. And we're going to deliver that call into the Cisco Finesse agent desktop, which for those of you who are running Cisco is the desktop for both the Enterprise and Express editions from Cisco. And then in the third scenario, we're going to do the same IVR, so same framework, same logic, same number, everything, but in the third one, we're going to transfer to an agent that's logged into a CPaaS ACD platform, in this case, Twilio, and that agent will take the inbound call, and then we'll follow that up with a survey link via SMS that we'll send out to the caller. And then the final demo will be a chatbot. The chatbot will use the CPaaS service for escalating the conversation from automated between myself and the bot and a live agent, and that's an integration with Servicenow. I like Servicenow demos specifically because one thing that a lot of people consider when they look at some of the testing or experimenting with the CPaaS offers is to address internal IT use cases, where you have a small group that you can potentially put on a new platform and do something like a self-service bot for incident status or something along those lines. Okay, so we're going to go to the first one. And again, this is really basic, but the scenario is that you have an application, could be any application within your environment that can make a call out to an external service, a webhook. And so this could be your CRM, or it could be, campaign management, anything along those lines. Or, it could be Splunk, right, that is looking at an inbound alert and deciding to send a notification out to an escalation engineer real time. That corporate application talks to a separate server, which could be run on Tomcat or Node or something along those lines, that's simply hosting the web application that will talk to the CPaaS. And then on the right, we have the CPaaS offer, which in this demo is Zang. And it will basically take the inbound request from the server and send a text message to the end user. So like I said, it's pretty basic. I don't know if you can hear me when we go through the video or not. Does my audio stop when we click on the video?
Yes.
It does. Okay. So I'm just going to let it run. Hopefully it makes sense. What you'll see is a development environment, a local server will be launched. Then the URL string to initiate the text message will be copied, pasted into a web browser. It'll send the text message to a cell phone, receive the text message. The message has embedded in it a link for a post-call survey. I'll click the link, answer the survey, and then you'll see the results of the survey using a web survey tool API call. Okay, so we'll do this first one now. Okay, I think I'm back. Yep. Okay, David, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure. Sorry. Okay, so did you guys see that? I can't tell. Did you see the video?
Yes,
I did. Yeah.
It played smoothly.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. So I really like that scenario, right? Because it gives you sort of a quick to deploy solution. So if you think back to the example I gave, about Splunk, right? So we have an inbound alert or something happen that triggers an API call. The API call goes out to the CPaaS, says, hey, send a message, here's the variables, pass it, and then boom, it's sent. And that's literally, just a simple Java servlet, or it could be a Node web app that's making that communication between the CPaaS and the internal, application, whatever it may be. The second one we're going to walk through, so this is, I mentioned earlier, this is an inbound IVR. The IVR is hosted in a CPaaS offer. It will take the inbound call, match the ANI, do a lookup in Salesforce. Oh, wait, let me back up. What you're going to see is, this is kind of relevant. You're going to see me log into Salesforce. I'm going to open a contact that's already there. I'm going to create a new case. After I create the new case, we're going to dial into the IVR. The IVR will recognize me. It'll also recognize that I have a case open and ask me if that's why I'm calling. I'll say yes. It'll transfer me to the agent, at which point we go out of the CPaaS and into the legacy ACD PBX environment, which in this case is Cisco. And then finally, you'll see, I'll highlight where the call variable that we captured for the case number in Salesforce is passed into Finesse. And you can kind of extrapolate from there. We could build a screen pop, or you could build a screen pop into Salesforce or something along those lines. So this one takes a little bit longer. So let's move on to that now.
Hi, and thanks for calling, Paul. Are you calling about the case you just opened, where the subject is lost building power?
Yes.
Got it. Let me get you to someone that can help you with that.
Okay, thanks. So I really like that particular use case because it highlights how you can take and build out a self-service, natural language, conversational IVR, which could have hooks into Google Dialogflow or Amazon Lex or, you name it. Push that completely out into the cloud, but still deliver the call into the local call environment, right? So if you're at that point, thinking about where do I go next with my contact center, and I don't want to necessarily rip out everything and go to pure cloud, but I need to start making that move. This is a really nice way to kind of begin the transition. And great thing, and what you'll see in this next sort of demo is now I'm calling the same IVR, but when I give a different option, it's sending me to a completely different ACD. So it's also great for a migration scenario where you may have very large groups that you're transitioning from one platform to another, but you want to have a consistent IVR experience, start to finish. So again, this is a little bit shorter than the last one. We've already created the case earlier, so it will pick up from there. I'm calling back in to the same number. I'm getting the same treatment. This time I'm going to say no. Instead of sending me to Cisco, it's going to send me to Twilio, where it will deliver the call into the environment. Then what you'll see, and I think this is really powerful use case as well, when the call wraps up, I get a post-call survey via SMS automatically. I answer the question, and then I say to myself, wait, I had another question. And I reply to the SMS and say, wait, I have one more question. In most cases, probably 99% of cases, if that happens, the person would get an auto response saying something like, this is for outbound only, or if you'd like to opt out of text messaging, say yes. In this case, the text message delivered back into the agent, and then they're able to answer the question that came in via SMS in a chat setting. One of our colleagues, saw that yesterday and suggested, let's say you're doing a post-call survey via SMS and you answer a very low NPS score. You could prompt them to, get redirected back to an agent via SMS chat, or, launch a call to further resolve their issues. There's a lot of stuff that you can do there. So we're going to go into this one. It's slightly shorter.
Hi, and thanks for calling, Paul. Are you calling about the case you just opened with the subject of lost building power?
No.
Got it. Let me get you to the next available agent to assist you.
Okay, so again, very, to me anyway, it's a very interesting scenario with that opportunity for the customer who just completed the post-call survey to engage again in another channel back into the contact center via the SMS, simply by replying to the one that they received for the post-call survey. And then the last demo we're going to walk through is a bot. And it looks like David upgraded my bot icon to a much nicer looking one, so thank you. But the scenario here is the customer on the left interacts with a chatbot. The chatbot is hosted in the CPaaS platform. There's an arrow missing, but the bot talks to an integration server, which is a set of Tomcat services running in the cloud, which in turn is doing the communication with Servicenow. We'll go through a self-service setting where the person interacts with the bot to create a new incident, then check the status of an existing incident. You'll see that I'll go to Servicenow briefly to copy the incident number of an existing incident so that we can retrieve status. And then it'll ask to speak to a live agent. When we speak to the live agent, the CPaaS solution transitions the bot to a live agent, and then we pop the Servicenow instance to the agent for the person that was just interacting with the chatbot, and also display to them the interaction history with the bot. So it goes pretty quick, and this one doesn't have sound because it's just the bot experience. So we'll go there. Okay, thanks. And one thing so a couple things I forgot to point out when we teed that up. On the right, you saw the agent desktop, and there was the Bing search service. Think of that as a placeholder for some business system that the agent typically reacts with. So could have been Servicenow knowledge base or what have you. And then the left was the me interacting with the chatbot. So those are sort of the things I thought would be interesting to walk through to give you some ideas about how you might put CPaaS in place in your organization. Given that, we have another poll that we'd like to do, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Hey, Steve, while we're waiting for people to submit their response to this poll, there was actually a good question. I believe it was in regards to scenario 3. I was a little slow on the Q&A, so I apologize to John at WEX. But the question was around specifically the example use case that involved the Cisco Finesse agent desktop. And the question was really trying to understand, how are the two legs of the call charged, on the customer side, the agent audio side. So maybe you can kind of speak to, maybe it's even worth speaking to at a high level, where in some of these other scenarios where the charges, from a consumption perspective come into play with what you've demoed.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really good question. The charge on the CPaaS side is a per. I don't know, Pundari would know, it's like a per 6-second or whatever increment of usage, and there's a fee based on the various services, right? So there's an inbound call or an SMS fee or something along those lines, and then that's billed on a monthly basis. And then there's a SIP refer or SIP interface where the call is handed off to the local environment. And I need to double check about the billing of the post transfer, right? Because I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. I wish I knew the answer to that question. But I'll get back to you on that, right? My belief is that the billing stops once the call has been handed off to the agent on the far end to receive the call, and you're only paying for the time in the IVR, those seconds, and then any additional features that you might use. Like, for example, in that case, it was using text to speech, and we were using Amazon Polly voice. So there's a tiny charge per second for Polly. One thing we can do as a follow-up for anyone who's interested is to create a little deliverable around each of these integration scenarios and answer that question a little bit better. Is that okay?
Works.
Okay, great. So, David, did we get all of the answers? Should I go to the right?
There you go.
Oh, what a great. This is what we wanted to see. Definitely. Maybe and not yes, and, the not really is totally understandable. It's not a panacea. And, it really, I think, super applicable in those cases where you're trying to make a decision about, do I make a big investment now in additional applications and infrastructure on-prem to do things like this, or do I push those capabilities in the cloud? And then, what's the cost structure associated with each? So with that, I think if there's any other questions or comments, then we have time set aside for that.
I've got one for you, Steve. So just
sure.
In terms of where a customer might get started here, so a lot of the use cases you demoed here seem to be solving very specific problems. So it wasn't necessarily a rip and replace of an existing contact center solution. From your perspective, based on what you've seen, having you spent so much time on the customer side, how do you foresee customers sort of consuming CPaaS? Moving forward. I mean, maybe I'm answering my own question, but do you see it as, taking off smaller bite-sized chunks, if you will, or, trying to go all in with, what CPaaS might offer out of the gate?
Yeah, I think that if you're a newer company that was born in the cloud, that is kind of app-driven, like the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Grubhub, Spot Hero type companies, or you have an extremely heavy demand internally for digital interactions and really differentiating consumer interactions, then you may want to really look closely at all of the capabilities that you would be offered. Those companies I mentioned, like Lyft is a great example, right? All of their communications is handled via CPaaS, right? Shopify is a company in Toronto. 100% of their contact centers have been moved there. But I think those are somewhat rare cases. The more likely scenario is that people are looking at the IVR is a really great one where, I need to move faster or get off of maybe a hosted solution that's, inflexible or what have you, and then adding channels. So, we think about omni-channel contact centers, there's a lot of ways to skin that cat, and depending on the scenarios that you're looking at, and how you want to differentiate, the channels that you're offering to a customer, you may be able to do so relatively quickly and easily with a CPaaS offer that's integrated into your existing solution than boiling the ocean for sort of like a massive omni-channel, migration. So I think, incremental additions and sort of kind of going back to that agile reference earlier is most likely what you'll see people doing. In my personal experience at Cigna, that's what we did, right? We really looked at, okay, how do I do refill reminders for prescriptions? I don't know. Okay, well, let's use this API call and it kind of gain momentum from there.
So, Steve, we got a couple other great questions that just came in. So the first one is,
sure.
And this is a loaded question, but I do like it. So sorry you're getting put on the spot.
That's okay.
Yeah, the question is, can you compare and contrast Zing to Twilio from the breadth of services for SMS-based customer engagement?
Yeah. I mean, for SMS-based engagement, then they're very similar. There are features that Twilio has that Zang doesn't around the ACD. So they have built a contact center platform within their platform that a lot of people are looking at really closely. Zang does not have that, but in terms of managing or processing SMS inbound, outbound, the APIs are very, very similar.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. And then there's another good question here as well. Do you have any comments on cloud-to-cloud integrations, for example, Salesforce to Twilio or hosted contact center service?
It's fun. And it's, it works great, right? So, the example I gave, here today, where we have a Twilio hosted IVR directly integrated into Salesforce. It's secure. It's quite straightforward to get the integration built. And it just allows you to move very rapidly into creating differentiating features versus getting the framework in place to even get that integration going. So I think my comment would be that cloud-to-cloud type solutions or CPaaS to other cloud like, Pega, or if it's in the cloud, or, ServiceNow or Salesforce or HubSpot or what have you, make a lot of sense because you just have the ability to move quickly is tremendously accelerated versus doing the same integrations from a premise legacy solution. So I'd say it's very friendly to those types of integrations.
Excellent. So that's what we've got for you now, Steve. Unless there's any other questions out there, ask now or we will shut this thing down.
All right. I think unless we get something coming in while we sign off, I think we're all set. So thank you, everyone, for joining today's session of Carousel's monthly Always On virtual series. Shortly after we wrap, a survey window will pop up requesting your input on today's session, as well as your interest in future topics. As a thank you for taking the time to complete it, we will send you a Starbucks gift card, so your next cup of joe is on us. Next month, we will be joined by Carousel's Director of Security Solutions, Josh King, to discuss emerging trends in ransomware. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.